I have two brief questions I'd like to ask, if I may.
Hi, welcome to Left Foot Media. My name is Brendan Malone and you're watching The Daily Question. Today's question of the day, how do you live life to the full? And the reason I'm asking that question is because not a week would go by, in fact probably not even a day would go by, where someone in my social media feed somewhere is posting some meme about living life to the full. And this is how you find happiness in life. You know, you seize the day, you live life to the fullest. But what does that actually mean, and how do you actually do that? Well, here's what I think. I think most people, when they use that term, live life to the full or seize the day, what they're meaning is that you're supposed to live a life of constant happiness and self-gratification and pleasure. It's all about you and doing things that make you happy. You know, you want to go surfing, you should just go surfing. You don't want to have a job, you want to go skydiving instead, don't have a job. Go skydiving instead. You want to ride through the streets of Paris on the back of a camel eating fine cheese, you should do that. You know, that's how you live life to the full. Seize the day, carpe diem, etc., etc. But I think there's a huge flaw in this approach. A, because that's not really, I don't think, how you do live life to the full. B, I don't think it's even possible to live a life like that, because the reality is that life isn't a constant high of pleasure and self-gratification, and if it was, it would become pretty numb pretty quickly. The whole thing about pleasure and experiencing genuine moments of happiness in life is that they have to be counterbalanced by those moments of difficulty and suffering. It's only in contrast to those moments of difficulty and suffering that you can actually experience the fullness that life has to offer. If everything in your life looked like this, right, it was always a constant high of pleasure and happiness, then that's all you would know. This would pretty quickly become a very numb baseline. But if your life is like this, which is how it should be, you know, those moments of difficulty and struggle and suffering, and then you climb to those peaks of happiness and joy and genuine pleasure in life, those moments really mean something because they're contrasted against those difficult moments. So you can't really live a life like that. You really shouldn't try and live a life like that. And I don't think that living a life like that is actually how you find true happiness in life. I think the best way to find true happiness is found in a little maxim that comes from Aristotle, the greatest of the Greek philosophers. And Aristotle said this, that happiness is the expression of a soul in considered action. Happiness is the expression of the soul in considered action. In other words, if you want to find true happiness in life and you want to live life to the fullest, I think it's all about living a considered life. And how many people do that today? I don't think most of us do. How many of us actually take the time to stop and think about why and how we are living our lives? Why do I live my life this particular way? Why do I make these particular purchasing decisions all the time? Why am I doing the things I do and not doing the things that I want to do? Right? Why is it that we live our life the way that we do? What is it that underpins our life? What is the guiding moral philosophy? What is the guiding, those first principles that govern the decisions that I make in my life, right? These are things, in order to live out fully and have fully fleshed out in your life, you actually have to stop and spend time contemplating and considering these things. But I would argue that a lot of us today, we really only spend our lives living in one of two different states. And I include myself in this. I often have to stop myself from getting stuck in this trap. It's a really problematic cycle where we're either living in a state of busyness, where we're just rushing from thing to thing to thing, or we're doing something and we're just busy, busy, busy. And when we're not busy, we're living in a state of distraction. We're distracting ourselves. We put in our earbuds. We're listening to Spotify. We're streaming some video, right? We're just tuned out. But how often do we stop and escape from either of those two states, busyness or distraction, to actually spend time contemplating life and thinking about the big questions, and particularly in how they relate to our own life? Happiness, if it is truly, as I think it is, an expression of the soul in considered action, you need to make time. You need to stop and actually make time to consider your life, to contemplate. There's something really dangerous about living in a culture where we're only flitting between busyness and a state of distraction. The problem is we can never think deeply. because we're not taking the time to think deeply about life and about the things that really matter in life. And so what that means is we end up living in a very superficial state, and that makes us very, very vulnerable. What it means is that when you live in the superficial, whoever happens to control everything in this world that is superficial, they're going to end up controlling us. We're not actually thinking through and making concrete decisions. Effectively, we're no longer in the driver's seat of our own life. We are simply a passenger behind the wheel, perhaps behind the tiller of a plane that's on autopilot as it goes from busyness to distraction, busyness to distraction. So, if you want to live life to the full, then I would suggest that that fullness of life is found first by stopping and contemplating and living a life that is an expression of that considered action, that considered thought, that life that is truly considered. Even when you're going through those difficult moments, even when you are experiencing suffering, when you are experiencing challenging moments in life, there still should be that considered underpinning that gives you a sense that enables you to frame that suffering, that enables you to say, it's okay, I've just got to keep going. I know why this is happening. I've got a sense of direction and purpose, even when I'm going through this really difficult period of my life right now. The floor is open. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so please let me know in the comment section below what you think. And if you like the content I'm creating and you'd like to see more of it, then please support me on Patreon for as little as $1 a month. That's right, I can hear my theme music too. I'll see you tomorrow on The Daily Question.